Before the fight, split your group up evenly with tanks, heals, and DPS. Phase 1. Have one group fight Yalat's Bulwark on the east path and the Hand of Enzashi on the west path. Both of the Guardians will do a crush ability where they raise one arm and do a cone of damage on one side of them that will stun anyone who stands in it, so dodge this. Enzashi will affect random players with a volatile charge. Get to the edge of the room to drop this off, and you can try to stack them near each other the best you can. Yala will cast Flames of Punishment, facing around in a circle shooting out fire jets. Stay behind him when he does this to avoid this ability. These Guardians will do these abilities through all of phase 1. Now for the traps. Doesn't matter which side you're on, but in the first chamber, there will be no traps to deal with. You just need to deal with your Guardian's abilities. When you get the Guardian down 10%, they move into the next chamber. Follow them since they'll light the previous chamber on fire. This chamber has fire jets that come out the walls for you to deal with, so dodge these. Get the Guardian down 10 more percent to move to the next chamber. This one has a ruby beam that will follow random players and leave flame on the ground, so be aware of that. Get the Guardian down another 10% to move to the next chamber, which has Pulse Quickening Toxin. This is just a dot on everyone, which does have a buff component when players are less than 50% health, but I'd advise ignoring that since it can leave you with dead raid members. Get the Guardian down another 10% to head to the next chamber, where there will be a ruby beam again, but also a Hex of Lethargy. If you get this, move as little as possible while healers dispel you. Get the Guardian down another 10% to move into the next chamber, which has the flame jets and ruby beams. Then another 10% to head to a room with no traps, but jewels to buff your character instead. There are gems on either side of this room to pick up, which will buff your character for the rest of the encounter. One side will have a white color jewel, which is for your tank to pick up. It's just a big absorption shield. Trust me, tanks, you want this. Then right next to that is a Tailwind Sapphire for a healer to pick up. This will give players you heal a hefty damage buff, so I'd suggest doing some spam raid heals with this gem. Then beside that is an Amethyst gem. The healer that picks this up will have their haste increased by 50%, but will also give players a Shadow Touch buff, which reduces shadow damage taken by 90% for 1 minute, which becomes handy later on. Now for the other side of gems, the DPS Jewels. The green gem is an Emerald. This will increase your damage by 1% per second as you stand still, then resets at 5 stacks. The next one is a Ruby. This will make the target you're attacking take 1% increased damage from all sources and can stack. You usually want lower DPS getting this gem. Then beside that is the Opal. Execute classes like Warriors are good for picking this one up because it increases damage done by 2% every time you hit a new enemy, which will come handy in phase 2 since there will be more adds. Then finally is the Topaz. As long as you're staying away from people, you'll gain a stack of incandescence every about 1 second. Once this reaches 100 stacks, you'll get a 20-second buff that increases your crits and everyone around you by 100% for 20 seconds. So choose your gems wisely. On Heroic, when everyone grabs their gem, they'll die from shadow damage after 30 seconds, unless your Amethyst healer heals everyone to buff them with the Shadow Touch, therefore making Thief's Bane manageable. So once in that chamber, get the Guardian down another 10% to move to the last chamber. No traps here, but the abilities that the Guardians do will be overloaded. The volatile charges for Enzashi will be much larger, and the Flames of Punishment from Yalat will cover a much bigger area. Once both Guardians die, head to the final area to fight Opulence for phase 2, and you can use Heroism or Bloodlust here. Random raid members will get liquid gold. Run to the edge of the room to drop this off. A bunch of spirits of gold will spawn at Opulence and move outward. Stun, slow, and kill all of them. Then Opulence will cast Whale of Greed, which will do a lot of shadow damage to the raid, unless your Amethyst healer has everyone buffed with Shadow Touch, which they should. On Heroic, the boss will do Coin Sweep on the tank, dealing massive damage. Before this goes off, whichever tank has a higher Diamond of Unshakable Protector buff should taunt and take it. Then Opulence will mark a random player with Coin Shower. Stack for this to split the damage.